Tennessee football took part in its first scrimmage of spring practice. Who scored touchdowns? Who stood out? We'll tell you all that and more. It's your Thursday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into your Thursday edition of Locked On Vols. I'm your host, Eric Cain. Appreciate you for being here, making Locked On Vols your first listen each and every day. Appreciate you everydayers for making this show what it is. We got a fun show coming up here today. We got all that you need to know about scrimmage number 1 from Tennessee football spring practice. Media can't be there, but we had some boots on the ground. We had some people tell us some things, and I'm going to tell you who stood out and what were the big takeaways from scrimmage number 1 here in a matter of moment. Running back Cam Seldon is going to be out for the rest of spring practice. How long will he be out? What is the injury? We'll tell you all that and more, and how that impacts Tennessee and the run game in segment number 2. And then I was at Pro Day yesterday afternoon. A lot of notes on a lot of former Vols as they look to take their next step towards the NFL draft. I'll tell you who stood out in Tennessee Pro Day. That is coming up in segment number 3. All right, so Tennessee spring practice scrimmage number 1. It happened over at Neyland Stadium early on a Wednesday morning, and then Josh Heupel met with the media shortly thereafter at about 9 o'clock. And it sounded like Josh Heupel was pleased, knowing that it's a starting point, right? I mean, every first scrimmage of camp is, you see some good things, but you see a whole lot of things that you need to work on, and that's very, very common. He said he liked the effort, he liked the energy, he liked the passion. He liked the willingness of some young guys to get in there and kind of get their hands dirty a little bit. And so it sounded like Josh Heupel was fairly pleased with what his team did on Wednesday morning. Some notes that I have from some people who were there. One of the bigger takeaways was just how much better the line of scrimmage play is compared to what it was. I mean, keep in mind, this is no surprise really. Josh Heupel and his staff took over, inherited a roster that was depleted. And it took a while to replenish those players numbers-wise at positions and get the caliber of player in that you need, specifically in the line of scrimmage, to play big boy football, play SEC football. And we talk about the defensive line a lot and how they're going to have literally anywhere from 12 to 13 guys who are going to play. The majority of those guys are veterans. They played a whole lot of football, seniors, and so we know about the options that Rodney Gardner has on the defensive line. Now, on the offensive line, I do like a lot of what Tennessee brings back and a lot of what Tennessee's added. John Campbell, right tackle, Lance Hurd, left tackle, Cooper Mays, center, Javonte Spraggins, whenever he's healthy, he's your right guard. And then you have the question mark at left guard, of course, but, Dane Davis is a guy, much like Ollie Lane last year, that is stuck around for a victory lap, and he's played, just about every position on the offensive line. He's the swing man, but he very well could be your starting left guard, potentially. Jackson Lampley's another guy that has been here, done that for quite some time, and he's played some football for Tennessee. You have Sham Umarov, who's a freshman that is now turning into a sophomore that's trying to earn that starting job at guard. And so, I mean, you like the first kind of batch of options you have, and of course Andre Carrick's in that conversation as well. You like the first batch of options you have on the offensive line. Now, as we talked about, depth is an issue on the offensive line for sure. And I don't think that Tennessee's where it needs to be at backup center right now. I don't think Vice and Lang had the best day in scrimmage number 1, but it is scrimmage number 1. It's a starting point. Backup offensive lineman has some work to do is the note that was given to me. So no surprise there. Where are you at the end of spring practice? Moving on now, looks like Holden stays. He had 1 drop on the day, but he made 2 or 3 really impressive catches. So, that's good. We talked about a tight end that, needs to ball out and needs to have a good opening scrimmage for Tennessee. It sounds like Holden stays did that. Nico Iamaleava made a couple of really nice off-platform throws, throwing on the run, getting outside of the pocket, throwing from the sidearm, just making some football plays when things might have broken down in front of him. And that's something that I think Joe Milton lacked in the Tennessee offense last year. And so that was good to hear and good to Take into account that Nico was making some of those throws, and it sounded like he, operated the offense efficiently and kind of where Josh Heupel would want at this stage of the game. Miles Kitzelman, who is a transfer tight end from Alabama. When we talk about the tight end position, we talk about Ethan Davis, we talk about Holden Stays. Miles Kitzelman is the guy that never gets mentioned. And sure, he's kind of third in line, but he's also the more physical of the three. And so much of this position in this offense is about getting your hands dirty, going up inside the line of scrimmage, lead blocking on an inside zone from the H-back position, all that type of stuff. Sounds like Miles Kitzelman had a really good scrimmage today, and that's good because you're shallow at the tight end position. Mike Matthews scored a long touchdown down the sideline. Gaston Moore threw him that football. And Josh Heupel, excuse me, guys, I'm going through it. My throat's a little tender this week. Josh Heupel made mention of that. Mike Matthews catching a long touchdown pass down the near sideline. I was told that he beat Jordan Matthews on that play. So the freshman getting the best of the sophomore cornerback. Keenan Peely stood out at linebacker. Edwin Spillman flashed with some of the backups who were in the scrimmage at linebacker. So that's good to see. Edwin Spillman's been on campus for, all of about a week and a half so far. So Edwin Spillman flashing, that's a good sign. Was told that Lance Hurd is an absolute stud. Was told that Lance Hurd at offensive tackle, at left tackle, dominated those who were in front of him, except when James Pearce was in front of him. And James Pearce dominated Lance Hurd. Now, you don't ever want anybody to get dominated, but if you're Lance Hurd and you're getting your jockstrap handed to you by a guy like James Pearce, that's only going to make you better. Again, we talked about how good James Pearce is, the high expectations on James Pearce coming into next season as being not one of, maybe the best pass rusher and defensive player in all the country. So I thought that was intriguing. Lance Hurd had a really, really good day, except when James Pearce was on him. And James Pearce is not just your average defensive end or outside linebacker. So those two guys are going to make each other better, in my opinion. Was told that Boo Carter flashed in the defensive secondary. That's good to see. Was told that Chris Brazel had a good day. That's good. That's good to hear in terms of a transfer wide receiver. Nico Iamaleava, good day, as I mentioned earlier. He also had a running touchdown on the design quarterback run, and we saw that twice in the Citrus Bowl. The other one was a scramble, but we saw it twice in the Citrus Bowl when they dialed it up for Nico and he went and scored. And so, that's something that feels like it's going to be part of the game plan moving forward. And then overall, the run game, as expected, Dylan Sampson's kind of got some bubble wrap on him right now because you can't afford to get him hurt. Cam Seldon, which we'll talk about here in a moment, is out with an injury. So it's a lot of Deshaun Bishop. It's a lot of Khalifa Keith and some others. And again, if you're running behind some of those reserve offensive linemen right now, it's got a little ways to go. So all this to say, the run game I don't think was great in scrimmage number one, but didn't hear about a lot of penalties. Heard operation was good, and those are a lot of the things you look for in scrimmage number one because that's typically when you're playing your most sloppy football. So those are some notes. That's what I have, and appreciate people that pass me along those notes, and so I can give them to you. Tennessee football will scrimmage another time. They're going to be off the next couple of days for the Easter holidays. They're going to scrimmage another time before the Orange and White game coming up on April the 11th. A guy that's not going to be playing in the Orange and White game, that is running back Cam Seldon. We'll tell you exactly what is going on with the injury to Tennessee running back Cam Seldon. That is coming up next as we continue on with Locked On Vols. This week's March Madness Bracket Highlight is brought to you by our friends over at Nissan. Each week, we're picking one team that stands out, a team that's pushed it further than the rest, just like the new 2024 Nissan SUVs. These guys were able to take it to the next level. Let's talk about the Iowa State Cyclones. Can only be described as a Nissan Pathfinder. They've been thrilling to watch. They've really created a lane for themselves entering the tournament as one of the hottest teams in the country. They have a date with Illinois this Thursday in Sweet 16 action. NC State Wolfpack, who had to play their way into the tournament by taking down the UNC Tar Heels in the ACC tournament can be described as a Nissan Rogue. Absolutely surprised us with a powerful performance in the first 2 games of the tournament. Wins over Texas Tech and Oakland. They're set up to play 2-seed Marquette in the Sweet 16. They say win life, go Rogue. That's exactly what the NC State Wolfpack has done here. Take on the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, and Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. And what to tell you about our friends over at Better Together. Is your bracket already busted? Are you tired of the same daily fantasy grind where you can make a roster, cross your fingers, and hope for the best, or losing on the last leg of your pick'em entry? Introducing Better Together, the first cooperative daily fantasy platform where teamwork triumphs talent and you can play with your friends, not against them. Pick more or less on real-time player stats, strategize with your partner to boost your odds, and climb the leaderboard together. So grab a friend and join the social DFS movement today that is over at Better Together. Download Better Together now from the App Store. Sign up using the promo code Locked On for your chance to win your share of over $1,000 in cash prizes. Remember the promo code Locked On, LOCKEDON, Locked On, because winning alone is fun, but it's always better together. More Locked On Vols coming up next, right here on a Thursday show. Welcome back into Locked On Vols, your team every single day. Eric Cain here, and let's talk about an unfortunate injury suffered to Cam Seldon, Tennessee's running back, backup running back to Dylan Sampson. Austin Price of VolQuest.com, he reported Wednesday morning that Cam Seldon is going to miss the rest of spring dealing with a shoulder injury. He underwent shoulder surgery that will keep him sidelined for an undisclosed amount of time. Already, the Tennessee running back room doesn't have Peyton Lewis, the true freshman early enrollee, who had surgery to clean up some things after arriving on campus. But he's going to be back for summer workouts. We'll see kind of when Seldon's going to be back. I think this could be pushing closer towards the start of the season. He's going to play football for Tennessee. Just, it might be really kind of watching it day by day in terms of if he's going to be ready, for the opener. So that's unfortunate. What does this kind of mean for Tennessee? Well, you take a room that's already pretty inexperienced, and one of those inexperienced backs that you're going to have to count on a whole lot in 2024 is going to be missing out on some valuable reps. He was, Cam Seldon, if you're unfamiliar with it, kind of how he was brought up and how he was recruited. He played in the state of Virginia. Not very good competition, to be completely frank. But he was a Mr. Do Everything. He at his size and speed, 6'2", 225 pounds, played wide receiver, played a little quarterback, kick returner, punt returner, played a little running back, all that and more. And he was getting some lofty comparisons out of high school in the recruiting cycle, such as like a Deebo Samuel, kind of a jack of a couple of different trades. And he came to campus, and he didn't play a role in the backfield because, of course, you had Jabari Small, Jalen Wright, you had Dylan Sampson. And so he only got in whenever it was, whenever the game was out of hand, or, whenever it was mop-up duty or whatever. He did play special teams and all that, but he was a priority. They wanted to get him on campus, and former, Tennessee running backs coach Jerry Mack thought that, Cam Seldon was going to just be a stud in this offense. And, of course, that can still be true, for Darrell Sims and running backs coach now. But he came on the scene whenever, Jabari Small and Jalen Wright opted out of the Citrus Bowl, and it was Dylan Sampson, and Cam Seldon kind of played second fiddle to Dylan Sampson. He had a solid game against Iowa. There was a really, really good rush defense, 13 carries, 55 yards. And, again, he was coming in here this spring. His role was going to increase. It was a big spring for him to not only get more repetition in this offense, because you can continue to get better, sharpen your skills by repetitions, but also to get your body acclimated to that workload, because his game was going to increase, his playing time was going to increase a whole lot for next fall. So again, it's unfortunate. It's not the end of the world, because when Cam Seldon comes back, he's going to be playing football for Tennessee. He's going to be, right next to Dylan Sampson, but the shoulder injury and the surgery that followed is going to keep him out for a little while. So that's unfortunate. What does this mean for the running back room? Well, again, it's an inexperienced group. Jabari Small, Jalen Wright, they're gone. Peyton Lewis, your early enrollee who hasn't played a down in college football at all, he's missing spring because he is recuperating from a cleanup surgery. So that means a whole lot of run, no pun intended, for Deshaun Bishop and Khalifa Keith. For those of you guys who might not be familiar with who these guys are, Keith was not a really highly touted back out of high school in recruiting, but he had a really solid season, senior season, 950 rushing yards, 11 touchdowns at Parker High School in Birmingham, Alabama. Put Tennessee on his radar, and he was actually a Kentucky commit, if memory serves me correct, and Tennessee was able to flip him because they needed a running back, and they went and evaluated Keith. They liked Keith, and they signed Keith. And but again, he's got some run on special teams, but he's never really seen a whole lot of action at running back outside of mop-up duty. Deshaun Bishop, locally out of Carnes High School here in Knoxville, he had a fantastic prep career at Carnes High School. When it was all said and done, he ranked second and third all time in high school football history in the state of Tennessee with a combined 8,347 yards and 102 rushing touchdowns while playing for Carnes. Whew, that's getting it done. He took advantage of a thin running back room this past spring, last year at this time when Jabari Small and Jalen Wright was there, but Jabari Small was kind of limited. And did a really good job there. And he was off to a strong start in fall camp, but then he had that season-ending injury. And so he's just now kind of getting back in the swing of things. But, moving forward, it's opportunities endless for Khalifa Keith and Deshaun Bishop with now no Cam Seldon here in spring practice. All this to say, Tennessee's got some question marks, in my opinion, in terms of the run game. I love what Dylan Sampson can do. Absolutely love what Dylan Sampson can do. Like what Cam Seldon can do when he's healthy. Outside of that, a lot of inexperience. And this is a Tennessee team that, the last 3 years have put together a stretch where they've combined for more than 8,000 rushing yards in 39 games. The first time that the Tennessee backfield has produced more than 2,500 yards in 3 straight seasons. All that production has been under Josh Heupel and, of course, this fast-paced offense. So, unfortunate for Cam Seldon. I really, really do hate it for him. He'll be back. He'll be playing football for Tennessee in 2024. But this injury is going to set him back. It's also going to set him back in the strength conditioning program. So, nature of the beast, right? Football is a contact sport, and Cam Seldon, unfortunately, is going to be missing some time here of late. All right, when we come back, I'm going to tell you all about Tennessee's Pro Day. Who stood out to me when Tennessee was performing? Tennessee players, former Tennessee players, were performing in front of NFL scouts. I'll tell you that and more coming up next as we continue on with Locked On Vols. What do you say about our friends over at Fire TV? It's your destination for sports, live games, highlights, in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences for smart TVs, as well as Fire TV Stick that you can plug in to your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball, for college basketball tournaments, you're going to want to have your Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. This includes all of us at Locked On, with most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels let you dive into all the game analysis, highlights, and more, keeping you up to date with the latest in the world of sports, March Madness, NBA, MLB, and a whole lot more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels on the Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out a Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. More on Tennessee's Pro Day coming up next, right here on Locked On Vols. All right, a final segment left here of your Thursday edition. Forgot what day of the week it is here of Locked On Vols. And let's talk a little Tennessee Pro Day. Now, as we kind of preview coming into the day, Tennessee had three players who were invited to the NFL Combine in Indy last month, and that was quarterback Joe Milton, running back Jalen Wright, and defensive back Kamal Haddon. All three of those guys did some things at Pro Day as well, but also 12 other Vols took part in Pro Day activities, including Aaron Beasley, Charles Campbell, McCallan Castles, Jeremiah Crawford, Karad Garland, Gabe Judy Lally, Ramel Keaton, Ollie Lane, Jalen McCullough, Jabari Small, Jacob Warren, D. Williams, and there was a total of 15. So, we'll kind of start the conversation with Joe Milton, just like, was talking about entering the day on yesterday's episode. And what I thought I would see is exactly what I saw. I mean this in no disrespect. And again, I've said this on shows prior. Joe Milton was built to wear shorts and throw the football with no defense. What I mean by that is he looks so good doing it. Throws, spirals, super tight. I don't know how many passes he threw. I mean, he was throwing a combination of outs and ends and hitches and curls and posts and skinny posts and flags and corner routes and all that. I mean, they was throwing pretty much everything. Say he threw 100 passes on the day, maybe 5 or 6 balls hit the ground. I mean, it was efficient, and he looked really, really good doing it. And so what I thought that I would see from Joe Milton is exactly what I saw. And he did this at the NFL Combine as well. And I don't know if every single NFL team was there. I'm sure, gosh, if not every team, almost every single team had a representative there. But there was a heavy NFL presence, for sure. There was a heavy NFL presence, and a lot of people liked what they saw from Joe Milton. Now, what does this mean for the NFL draft? I have no clue. I mean, I feel like there's always a run on quarterbacks, and people are desperate to take a quarterback. I think Joe Milton is an early day 3, maybe super late day 2 draft pick. I think he's going to get picked in the 3rd round, honestly, because there's going to be a coach out there that says, oh, I'm drooling over all the intangibles that Joe Milton has. I can fix him. He can play on my offense. I'm going to draft him. And I think that's what's going to happen. But long story short, Joe Milton had a really good day. Joe Milton threw the football well, and I think he helped himself out a little bit on Wednesday. Another guy that I think had a really good day was McCallan Castles. Now, this was a big game. This is a big day for him because I was kind of surprised. I thought McCallan Castles would likely get an invitation to the NFL Combine. He didn't. So this was his day. He had to show out. He had to prove that he's a guy worth taking in the NFL draft. And I think he did just that. His broad jump and his vertical jump would have tied for 1st and 3rd, respectively, of all tight ends at the NFL Combine last month. So Castles, he had a 37.5-inch vertical. That would have been 3rd at the NFL Combine. And he had a 10.6 broad jump, which would have tied for 1st among tight ends at the NFL Combine. McCallan Castles did a really, really good job. I think he made him some money today. I do. Another one, excuse me, guys. Another one that I thought had a pretty solid day overall was Jabari Small. Now, is it enough to get him drafted? I would say probably not. But in terms of running the 40, he ran about a 4.5 40. In terms of going through drills, he just looked really smooth, clean. You could tell that he's been working for this. And I was kind of surprised that I didn't think Jabari Small was going to be done playing football. I thought maybe he would enter the transfer portal. I thought maybe he would try to come back to Tennessee and use that COVID year. But he decided to go and pursue an NFL dream, and that's fine. And I'm not to say I expected him to come out and not be very good at his pro day, because I know Jabari works hard. I know he's been training for this. I guess I just didn't expect him to look that good. He looked really good. He did. He ran a 4.55 40 as well. So good on Jabari Small. I hope this can help him in terms of his NFL draft stock and being selected come April, late April. Having to take a sip of tea in between because I'm losing my voice here. So Jabari Small looked good. Jalen Wright didn't do an awful lot. He didn't need to do an awful lot. He absolutely knocked it out at the NFL Combine. Put up some historic numbers. So he didn't run a 40. He didn't test in the L drill and the vertical and the broad jump and all that because he's already done at the NFL Combine. What he did do was he did a little bit of field work. He did some drill work and some running backs and caught a couple passes out of the backfield and stuff. But it was a light day for Jalen Wright, and that's okay because of the performance that he had at the NFL Combine. But he was there, and he looked good out there running around a little bit. Ollie Lane was doing offensive line drills. He was also snapping for Joe Milton when Joe Milton was throwing routes on air. D. Williams and Ramel Keaton were running those routes for Joe Milton. They were the receivers catching his balls. Some others who here are some times, and it's important to note these are unofficial times. These are times that me and other journalists, were hearing and shared with one another, and a couple of them UT gave us. These are unofficial times, and I don't have times for everybody, but here's a couple that I'll relay to you guys. Again, McCallan Castle's 10.6 broad jump, 37.5 vertical, which is really good. He ran in the 4.6s, 4.6 range in the 40-yard dash. Again, I think he had a really, really good day. Kamal Haddon ran a low 4.5, about a 4.53 40. He had a 34.5 vertical and a 10.2 broad jump. So a solid day for Kamal Haddon, who did some things at the NFL Combine as well. Ramel Keaton ran a 4.4, low 4.4 40, which is really solid. Had a 10.4 broad jump, 33.5-inch vertical. I think Ramel Keaton had a pretty solid day. Joe Milton ran in the 4.5 range in the 40-yard dash. Jabari Small, 4.55 in the 40, a 9.9 broad jump, and a 36-inch vertical. So again, I thought Jabari overall had a pretty solid day at the office. In conversations with some of the players whenever they were done with their meetings, meeting with NFL teams that were there, Joe Milton's going to work out for Cleveland, I think, in the next couple of days. Jalen Wright has a workout set up with the Bills, the Vikings, the Raiders, and both LA teams. So it's going to be a busy day coming up busy next couple of days coming up for Jalen Wright. McCallan Castles is going to work out for the Minnesota Vikings. After, again, he showed a lot of explosion in the broad and the vertical jump. So some notes, not a whole lot, but it sounds like some of these guys for Tennessee really helped themselves out at their pro day, and that's what it's all about. Give it an opportunity. What are you going to do with that opportunity, and what more opportunities can come from this? And I still think Joe Milton's going to be a third-round pick. I think Jalen Wright could be the first running back taken, but also knowing this is kind of a weak running back class, and that might come in the late second or third round. But I think Jalen Wright's done a great job this offseason. I think Joe Milton's helped himself out. I think Kamal Haddon's been okay, and I think McCallan Castle's helped himself out more than anybody today because I think he's now going to get drafted. So anyway, good stuff there from Tennessee, and good stuff at their Tennessee's Pro Day. All right, that's going to do it here for today. I'm going to rest my voice. Hopefully I'll be back to 100% tomorrow. Sorry about the coughing and everything, but hey, it's this time of the year, right? Tennessee football will continue on after the Easter holidays. It's going to take a couple-day break, but a lot of good notes over at volquest.com on what scrimmage number 1 was, and we'll see the timeline as the days continue on for running back Cam Seldon, who's obviously going to miss the rest of spring with a shoulder injury. Appreciate you guys for tuning in here on a Thursday edition of Locked On Vols. Coming up on a Friday edition, we're going to get you set for Tennessee in the Sweet 16. Preview galore for Tennessee and Creighton. All that and more is coming up on a Friday Locked On Vols. Until then, appreciate you guys. Stay safe, and we'll talk again tomorrow.